Thank you so much for checking out this channel, guys. I highly recommend checking out and searching with my channel name or something related to this channel, different topic and videos, but and to give you insight on this, particular live stream, if you looked at the title, um, you know, I apologize for anything I say wrong, and I say that because one, I do think God does take extra attention, to this particular topic, even though I do think the Bible does say that, technically God has no favorites, he loves us equally in a way. Um, Still, the Bible does warn, the topic of the Jews is a little bit more serious. So, again, I saw a good video trending, and so lately I have been trying to keep up with, you know, um, trending topics, guys. And obviously, there's so much to really say about this, guys. Um, Israel, and especially we see what's happening today. Again, I think this is why we are reminded that Israel again just became a nation again, guys, after 2000 or maybe I think it's around 1500 or so years of not being a collective nation, guys. And really the implications, of what that really means, when you think of like not having a home or a nation not having a home. And so when you look at the Old Testament, guys, not only could you really say that, all life really came from someone originated in the biblical story of the Jews, you could say that, but also Jesus is Jewish, and whether you believe it or not, we as Christians do truly believe that the God of the universe is Jesus, you know. And so we really believe that, he is directly connected to the God of the Old Testament, who, again, Israel or Jewish people, especially, very serious ones, don't like to say the name Yahweh. I think even today, there could be some people that, don't necessarily say it. And the reason behind that is, I think people have done videos on this, but, even today, Jewish people take, the God of the Old Testament very, very seriously, even if they may not necessarily be, total followers of Jesus, which we as Christians, do believe, is the next segment of the Jewish God, the other form that he takes. Because one thing, if you want to say it this way, guys, just like God takes different names, even though there's only one God who is unchanging, God still calls himself by different names, guys. Takes different forms, if you want to talk about it like that, guys. And so if you want to talk about, how God may like change clothes, so to speak, you know, um, Jesus is another form of God, basically. But he's also, if you read Psalm 212, when David said, "Kiss the Son, lest God be angry." We as Christians do believe that Jesus is the Son that David is referencing in that verse. And so, anyway, guys, because searching Jewish hip hop, guys, I feel like if you're into hip hop, guys, check out Jewish hip hop, guys. I want to do like sort of a segment on that too, like a continual segment. But like anyway, the Bible also, not only these huge implications that are already, but the Bible does declare, in a cool way that Israel is the center of the earth. and specifically Jerusalem. And I do think this, I personally believe scientifically, guys, if somehow you were to measure this, I think it's this technical in the Bible sometimes that literally, if you were to somehow measure the earth, like Israel is the literal center of the earth or something, like maybe if you were to spread the earth out flat or something, I don't know. But also, our Lord and Savior, for those that are Christians, is Jewish. And so, one of the things that I was reminded of earlier is that we should not be too kind of overconfident in a sinful way as Christians, and that's pretty much the summary of this whole live stream, guys, in regards to, our salvation, guys, because there's different warnings in the Bible that God will treat us the same way that He records treating Israel, guys, and things like unbelief, guys, or certain lifestyle choices that are sin that we continue in, guys. And so that's one warning, sobering warning, guys, in regards to Israel, but also just trying to guard against the demonic influence of just what Jesus calls doing things without understanding what you're doing. So what I mean by that is just sort of naturally, oh, if everyone hates Israel or something, I'm just gonna hate Israel. Like that's what people do these days, so let's just join that. Kind of like what the Bible or Jesus could say is like senseless hatred. And so that's one thing I want to make this video a warning about for anyone subscribed or something checking out this channel. And then two, the warning of as Christians we should I do agree, especially for those stuck in repetitive sin, guys, is to even just like, okay, have that real conversation with God of like, hey God, okay, I'm trying to fix this or something, or trying to communicate. Like one thing people say is communication is sort of key, and not to say, I do think we should have kind of a balanced look at salvation, guys, as far as not sort of we're learning from the Jewish people, but not thinking of ourselves better than them in any other way. Just like we shouldn't do that, towards God or towards Jesus, or even towards each other as people. Even if we think about not necessarily Jewish people or Christian people, but the Bible warns against just like kind of having this wrong attitude towards people, especially if you look at the rich and poor separation and different things like that. So yeah, in general, you guys, I just wanted to say that Israel, especially in light of like heaven, you know, we should still be learning from what Israel is sharing with the world, especially through the Bible, guys, but also, the lessons that God is teaching us through the nation of Israel. Even today, as we look at the news of what's happening, guys, sometimes I want to think about life as, sort of the Bible is still recording, in some sense of like, crazy things that are taking place in the world. Even though the Bible, I do agree with the whole Christian church that the Bible is concluded in, as far as adding to our Bible that we have here, the Holy Bible, as far as any other scriptures. But what I'm saying is like, there's still things that the Bible itself does declare is prophesied about Israel still to come, guys. So just be aware of that. And then in a kind of a real sense, guys, just don't get too overly confident as far as your Christian walk with God, and have that balanced look at, okay, let me be real and still confess sin, still make an effort. Because guys, you should check out the AI video that I did. I don't know if it's fully accurate, but I asked AI to give me a statistic on, like, especially in the world, but maybe it was in the USA, of how many people are actually obedient to God. And it came up with a number of like 1 in 10. And so I do sort of agree though with the idea that you could sort of separate salvation, if you want to look at this like it, like some commands are not as necessarily according to Jesus himself, guys. This is not our own thinking, but some commands, even though they are given for us to do, are not necessarily connected to salvation, like going to heaven. Now, some things, what I noticed, guys, also, this is a helpful tip for us as, not main stage teachers or ministers, guys. We're going to church like everyone else, guys, and sitting down in the crowd, it's just we need to be focused on, you know, uh, the main points of salvation, and not necessarily, the minor parts. Jesus reminded us, like the Pharisees, they would tithe or something, or focus on these little parts of what God has been saying, but neglecting the bigger part, guys. And especially, the Bible does give, recording of kind of the first offerings to God, as far as offspring from Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, you know, it records, like, the quality of what we're giving to God is important to him. I think I did a video on this, of like, this is kind of a rabbit trail here, guys, but you know, I don't know for sure if the Bible records Cain's offering as wrong in that it was a plant. Because what we've learned today, guys, especially in 2026, I kind of want to do its own video on this, guys, is that plants are actually really valuable, on the level of like gold or something, when you really think about it, guys. And some, depending on like the uses of it. So I don't know if God was like offended or something, or displeased because Cain brought a plant, literally. But maybe it was on the sides of like the word quality or attitude. Even Jesus brings out like the heart issue of things, is what God was really, as we bring together the whole Bible, Old and New Testament, that is what he was, sort of displeased with, not necessarily the specific offerings itself, because again, especially, in regards to Jesus's literal body, yeah, obviously, this is kind of dark, but like, obviously Jesus's body, he came in the form of exactly like us. Like, I don't know if you were to do an autopsy on Jesus, he had a heart like us physically, but his heart is, like, the spiritual side of his heart is much, much different than us. And so, anyway, hopefully I'm making this understandable, guys, and what I'm sharing. But, you know, if you were to do an autopsy on Jesus's body back then, guys, you know, uh, you wouldn't necessarily see like a golden and wrapped heart or something, like, different, organ styles, where it's like, whoa, this guy, in our opinion, like, has like a, today's term would be like, a gold encrusted heart or something, or like, you know, uh, his bones have like some sort of crazy tattoo art on it or something. And like, no, when Jesus had a body that was ours. And so, you know, all I'm trying to say is, think about your heart issues. And so anyway, Israel. you know, as I wrap up this little live stream here, guys, guys, a little bit about me is I'm in transition as far as like housing is concerned and stable housing, guys. I could use prayer in regards to who's watching this right now. And then I do have a regular job, guys, right now. And even, guys, this whole YouTube thing, even as if in a I didn't have necessarily a normal 9 to 5, I am interested in starting my own business though too within the kingdom of God parameters though for me personally. And this YouTube thing isn't necessarily going to be my main ministry, guys. I think that's just, some people do devote like more time to YouTube or something. But anyway, I just wanted to share that. But Israel, needs to be important to us, guys, and that's just the simple truth. And we need to start, sometimes I've seen my own self, guys, get into unbelief or something where, in the face of different troubles similar to Israel, you can start to frankly just freak out a little bit, And so when we lose track, there's a certain level of freaking out that God is displeased with. Not necessarily our total reaction sometimes, I guess, of like, whoa, this is a troubling situation. But especially for days and days or years and years, you never exercise any faith to get out of that situation that, of course, like, God may allow for you to get out of, like it's placed in your life maybe as trouble, yes, but it also is sort of like a test, of, and like he will provide a way for you out, But if you were just kind of like even as a saved Christian are sort of refusing to, use your faith in certain situations, I think that is sort of the side of, displeasing God, A little bit of insight also on, the whole hell and lake of fire thing, guys, and trying to understand, sort of the epic parts of life that we may not always talk about. I do think why it is such a, what we as human beings call like an intense, punishment. I do think the Bible gives us clues when trying to understand this thing more. Could be, one of the reasons could be because people are not exercising their God-given ability to get out of certain situations. Now, I do believe, guys, there's certain situations, especially depending on the person, are harder to get out of, guys. But I do think God is telling us, and I have to believe this, guys, that, he is not necessarily forcing people into hell. Like I think there is good scriptural evidence to support, even though God is going to carry out hell, like as far as we know, like on some level, like, there is a side of God where, he's still not going to change it, But, trying to understand that more as a lesser being, guys, we are lesser beings, on some level, guys, we don't have control of some of the things that we, are sort of involved with, right? But, as a coping mechanism too, guys, because I do think it is overall, a blessing that God made us. I personally have said, in emotional times too, that like, oh, why did God make us, But overall, guys, especially in this moment right now, guys, I do think it is sort of a blessing, even if you do end up going to hell, guys, at this current experience to see and experience what we do experience, guys. And so I don't know, like, especially guys, for those that, especially as, sort of a confident Christian, that we can be sometimes, guys, when I sort of evaluate what I at least can evaluate of people that we would, sort of classify as wicked going to the lake of fire, you know, um, they do appear to be having a good time, and I don't know, like, again, there's all different, sort of ways we can talk about sin, guys, and I'm trying my best, guys, to not necessarily declassify myself as like, oh, I'm not a sinner or something, or I haven't seen what myself can do or something in regards to sin, guys. There are things that I am ashamed of, but I'm trying to have that shame wiped away by Jesus Christ, guys. And so all I'm trying to say, I know this isn't what this video was supposed to be about, but this, I do think about this sometimes, guys, and I do think, I mean, something has to be true or not true about God, guys. And so I do think, if this whole thing was possible about God having such a great character, and the ability to have such a great character, right? Whether, who cares about authentic or something, like, whether it's pure or something, I don't know. I really, when you think about it, especially connecting, we have no control over some of this stuff, guys. It does seem to be true that, God is not necessarily forcing people into the lake of fire, is what I'm trying to say. Even though, I don't know, guys. And that's just what I want to say. God's going to tell us more. But here's the connection of sort of unbelief and, like, this is kind of getting into the realm of accusing God of being a liar, and we all can understand what the concept is of a liar. So when you are sort of talking about this topic and sort of in unbelief or something, or accusing sort of God in our heart, like, of what he says to us is not true, guys, I think we should be careful. And that's what I think, Israel teaches us, guys. And I have to, sort of disagree with, sort of some stigma in the church about, certain things that God is asking us to do. Like, there's a stigma where even Christians are saying certain things are not possible, guys. Yeah, some things I do foresee, even maybe in my personality, that not necessarily, I think after reading the Bible, we should agree with God that all things are possible, guys. But, I do foresee, even in my future, that some things are harder for me than others. But, again, connecting, trying to understand more about the lake of fire, guys. And then I'm going to end this video, guys, because I'm not necessarily saying what I wanted to say in regards to Israel, but it does seem to be that the wicked of a own free will, that is, even though, like, Calvinists are saying, that I do sort of agree that everything does come from God. I do believe, guys, that God has the ability, to make something. Obviously, he made, like, what are we saying? People have the craziest things sometimes. When you talk about paths that we can take in our mind, some videos that you literally see are professional and have millions of views. I think say something what we would, God tells us, is in the category of confusion, saying things like our universe is not real or something, or like we are in what we would call a dream. And to be honest, guys, sometimes this ish can, like, excuse me for saying ish, but, like, sometimes this stuff can mess with you guys. And so hopefully this is really helpful. Hopefully someone finds this video, guys. But again, I pray not to go to the lake of fire myself, guys. Honestly, I don't care, guys, but, like, I try not to care. But anyway, it does seem to be true that, those that are on their way to the lake of fire do seem to be enjoying what they're doing, guys, and unrepentant, basically. And I do also believe that God, is giving those people the ability to escape his own wrath. Even though we could sort of, just, this is kind of one of those straight shooter videos, guys. I hope I don't get in trouble in some way, but even though we can say that, God is sort of, I don't know, messed up for, making the whole lake of fire situation. Okay, I just said it, guys. So anyway, I don't know, but I do want to love God, guys. I don't know. I'm thankful. I've heard a pastor say this, guys. I am thankful to be a Christian. Even I struggle on, oh, is Christianity like, the way or something? But guys, honestly, I don't want to think about stuff too much. This is one of those straight shooter videos, guys, where, I'm thankful to be given the chance to find Jesus, guys. So I'll end this video on that, guys. Check out more, like and subscribe, guys. Visit WASHYE.com, guys. I honestly do need to come up though in life a little bit, guys. Another thing, honestly, I'm saying, guys, I do need donations, guys, and I am trying to say that I'm doing my best to bring value to this ministry, guys, to be someone you can choose to give your money to, guys. And yes, it is true that ministers, if you think you can believe me or not in this video, guys, I ministers do sort of need to ask for donations, guys. This is kind of a hard, kind of if hard type style of life. But anyway, guys, WASHYE.com, guys, it is set up for me to receive donations, guys, as far as I understand. And I do think I have some frankly cool things that God has placed on my heart to do, guys. So please seriously think about giving to this ministry. Hit the like and subscribe button. Please share some of the other cool videos, to people, guys. I don't want to live in poverty, both spiritually or like socially, guys. I do feel like I'm more of a social person, guys. And I do think my life needs to improve, guys. So please help me out in some way, shape, or form. Thanks so much, guys. See ya. My name's Ben. Peace out. Wow, that was great.